my name is Maria Thomas. I graduated from Norwin in 2017, and I'm so excited to be back helping out with Norwin Science Alumni Day. So I am a graduate of Duquesne University. I'm in graduate school there right now, in my third professional year of pharmacy school. So I brought a couple friends along with me. We're going to talk to you about the different areas of pharmacy that we work in or are interested in, and just want to show the versatility that comes with a pharmacy degree. So first I'm going to talk about a hospital, or what we call acute care, which is any condition that is constantly changing or requires a lot of monitoring or immediate medical attention, such as a hospital stay. So we're going to split this into two categories: central staffing and clinical rounding. So central staffing is when the pharmacist is staffed directly in the pharmacy in the hospital. So they sort of act as the main hub of the pharmacy operations in the hospital. It's where all of the medications are stored, it's where we mix the IVs, it's where all of the orders come through from the doctors that we then verify, grab, and then send up to the units. So this is a great way to still be involved with the patient medication process, but it's a bit less specialized or a bit more less hands-on than directly on the unit taking care of the patients. And it's a really great way to make sure that there's always somebody present in the hospital that can answer medication decisions. It's always open 24 hours, unless it's a really small rural hospital, but anywhere in the city, it's going to be open 24 hours just to ensure that there's easy access to care for everybody. Next up, we have clinical rounding, and this is when a pharmacist is working directly on a nursing unit. So typically, it's a pharmacist rounding with a nurse, a physician, or any sort of respiratory therapist, occupational therapy, physical therapy, an entire interdisciplinary team working on specific patients on that unit and making clinical decisions. So the pharmacist will always be there making on-the-spot medication decisions for them, and then the doctor will put the orders through. That pharmacist will then verify it. It will get sent to the central pharmacy. And that process is pretty standard throughout most hospitals. The big thing with this one is that it often requires a specialized certification or training. So this means that a pharmacist might go through postgraduate residencies. So this is a year or two after you graduate, you just go and you basically shadow working in a hospital under a pharmacist to get a board certification in a specific area of pharmacy. And this can be on any of the units listed down below. So you can work in emergency medicine in the ER, critical care up in an intensive care unit. It can be in cardiology, specifically with the heart, and then also oncology for cancer.
Hi, I'm Kaylee and this is Logan, and we're going to talk to you all a little bit about retail pharmacy, which, what comes to mind typically are your stores like CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens. And Logan's going to let you guys know a little bit more about what comes with retail pharmacy.
So I'm sure you all have an idea of what you think that retail pharmacists do, which is stuff that they do like talk to patients when they come in, hand you your prescriptions, and maybe ask you if you have any questions. And I'm sure a lot of people think we just count pills and do things like that. But there are also, which is all true, but we do some other things like patient counseling services. Whenever you have a new medication, you want to make sure you ask new patients if they have questions on these medications, how to take them. We also offer medication therapy management services, or MTM services, which is basically just taking a list of all the patient's prescription medications and going through everything and making sure that they know why they're taking these medications, that they're taking them correctly, and also just to go through any over-the-counter medications they might be taking that could have any interactions with their prescription medications. Also, pharmacists will verify prescriptions and have phone calls with doctors and insurance companies just to make sure that prescriptions are covered or if any issues with the script itself. And most of the time there's only one pharmacist in the store who's taking all the prescription orders through the phone or also through e-scripts and fax. They also counsel patients on the new medications that they might be picking up, and then they verify the prescriptions that come through that the technicians fill and put into bottles that you would receive, and they just make sure that the appropriate amount is in there, that it's the right medication, the right dose, and that it's for an appropriate indication.
And then with like any practice setting, there's going to be pros and cons to working there. So I'm going to talk about some of them that have to deal with retail pharmacy. A big pro is if you like dealing with patients and working like hands-on with customers, that's like a great opportunity in retail pharmacy because as Logan said, you're always going to be counseling patients. And then also depending on the store and like the site that you work at, they tend to have like nice holiday hours and weekend hours because pharmacies tend to close a little earlier on weekends and a lot of the pharmacies are closed during holidays. And then some cons that you do see though, retail pharmacy is very understaffed right now. So that kind of ties into a few of the other cons I'm going to talk about. One being that patients love like a quick turnaround. Like if you run to MedExpress and you don't feel good, you expect to go to the pharmacy and your prescription's automatically ready. But the pharmacists are dealing a lot with being understaffed and having that very overwhelming like workflow. So sometimes they have to deal with those upset customers. And then also another one is spending a lot of time on the phone trying to deal with prior authorizations, which is essentially when the pharmacist has to call your doctor or insurance company to try to get a medication covered so that you don't have to pay as much on it. But overall, I hope that you learned a little bit of something new about retail pharmacy because there is a lot more than what you just assume when you like kind of walk in and see a pharmacist doing their job. So we hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.
Hi guys, my name is Katie and I'm a current fifth-year pharmacy student at Duquesne University. And I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about some unique career paths within pharmacy. So I'm sure most of you, when you think of a pharmacist, the kind of image that pops into your head is that person behind a counter at CVS or Giant Eagle wearing the white coat that dispenses your prescriptions. And while that is probably the stereotypical representation of a pharmacist, I want you all to know that there are a ton of other things pharmacists can do. So one of those is managed care. And what pharmacists do for managed care is typically working for a health insurance company. So within the Pittsburgh area, there's Highmark or UPMC, and pharmacists will work for these companies and we're the drug experts. So anything from creating the formulary or like the list of drugs that are covered under your insurance plan to reaching out to patients that are kind of flagged based on the insurance claims for maybe non-adherence, so they're not taking their medications properly. Maybe they just have like diabetes or some chronic disease state. Pharmacists will manage these patients' medications and call them up on the phone and just make sure everything's going okay. They might call their doctors and recommend some changes in their medications. So there's normally a more indirect role than what a traditional pharmacist might do, but it could be a really rewarding career path for pharmacists. It's often referred to as the business side of pharmacy, which I don't really agree with, but it does require some more like businessy type skills. Pharmacists here are going to probably be working like 9 to 5. You might be on call sometimes, but it's a much more like relaxed kind of like office job vibe for a pharmacist. And then another thing I wanted to talk about was industry. So pharmacists in industry work for drug companies. So you might have heard of like Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. Those are all drug companies. And pharmacists who work for them can do anything from research and development, so like physically making the drugs, starting with like coming up with a compound, to the clinical trials that are testing it in patients, to even like making the pills that are going to be in pill bottles one day. Pharmacists can do tons of stuff there. Also like marketing, so the drug commercials that are on TV all the time. There's pharmacists who, make sure that information is all correct about the drug. Things like regulatory affairs, so all drugs have to be approved by the FDA. So pharmacists in regulatory affairs are going to make sure that any forms are submitted and everything is approved. And then medical information is probably the biggest area that pharmacists can work at in industry. And these are pharmacists who can create like PowerPoints and presentations that are going to be sent out to like doctors and say like, hey, this is a new medication that we have. they might be talking to patients who have questions about their medications. There's tons of different things that pharmacists can do. So this is part of the reason why I was originally interested in pharmacy. When I was in your shoes as a high school student, I really liked science, I really liked healthcare, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't want to like kind of have a path that was just like unidirectional. There's one thing that I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, and this is that. I think pharmacy has so many different options and so many different paths that you can go down. So if this sounds like you, I definitely recommend, looking more into it. Managed care, you can look up AMCP, and they have tons of resources and more information. IPHO, or the Industry Pharmacist Organization, they'll have more information about industry as well. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or any of the other students that are here today. But I wish you the best of luck with the rest of your high school career and maybe becoming a pharmacist.